So now, as you know, small businesses are very much a central focus of the economy at the moment. The National Small Business Awards have been ongoing over recent weeks. And of course, it's a difficult year ahead. Some businesses doing well, others finding it more difficult. So we thought today we would talk to some people in the small businesses of Ireland and hear their story, their entrepreneurial ideas and how they've carried those forward. But also talk about some of the policy issues and some of the pressures that are coming on our small businesses, which really are the backbone of the economy, making up almost half of total employment in the modern Irish economy in 2025. So joining me here is a very interesting panel with a varied range of experiences and type of businesses. Carol Nolan, who is from Way Less Wonders, a fitness and weight loss program and app. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Also James Nolan, who's a butcher for a family in Kilcullen, County Kildare, Nolan Butchers. They've been there a long time. You can tell us a bit about that in a second. And also David Broderick is also joining. He's the director of the Small Firms Association. Folks, thank you very much for coming in and talking to us today. David, before we go to our two very interesting guests who have very diverse stories to tell, where are we in terms of taking stock at the moment for small businesses? There's a lot of pessimism, certainly in media. You hear about the retail sector, hospitality takes up a fair bit of airtime as well, and stories that are tough. Where are you at the moment on where we are in 2025?
Sure, yeah. Well, look, a bit mixed in terms of what's out there at the moment. The problem of costs has not gone away, and no line of sight of that going away in the near future, which is, and in fact, even more coming down the line with the likes of auto enrollment coming in, and some other stubborn costs that just aren't going away. Hopefully we'll talk about it a bit more, but certainly things around insurance hasn't gone away, energy prices. But look, some businesses are doing well, and I'm very conscious of not being very pessimistic, but overall, Emmett, they're a bit weary. They've bounced from
punch drunk.
They've bounced from one crisis from another. You're into COVID. You got into an energy crisis, and obviously we're very happy with the supports that government put in, and we're not for 1 second blaming government for some of the things that have happened, and in fact some of the supports that have been available have been a life support machine. But we are in a period now where those supports have been taken away. But there's also the regulation piece as well. So again, a lot of regulation change, and they all came at the one time. So a lot of what the Small Firms Association is calling for recently is just a bit of breathing room, just a bit of space, just time to take a breath and kind of get back up and running, replenish those cash reserves which have been depleted. And businesses are working really hard to keep their margin. A lot of what's happened with the costs, they've been squeezed on margin. So 2025 is going to be, where can I turn to now? I've already cut back my hours. I've already, changed supplier. I've already looked at this. What can I do next? So a very mixed environment.
It sounds like adaptation is everything at the moment. Carol, welcome first of all. Adapting to this environment that David talks about is everything. Take me into your business a little bit. Tell us a little bit about it and how you're adapting.
So I suppose my name is Carol Dean, and I started up a company called Way Less Wonders a couple of years ago. I started up after Weight Watchers ceased trading in Ireland, so they just walked out and left me with no job. So basically, now I had great support by people who were surrounding me there, so I don't want any badness towards them, or I'm not saying anything wrong, but it was still put me in a place of I'd no experience to run a business or anything. So I started up where I can do this, it's going to be great, and all will be fine. And out I went, and it was a very different environment a couple of years ago than it is now. So obviously I set up my own business called Way Less Wonders. We ran classes, and then after about 6 months, when my personal opinion is that everyone stopped feeling sorry for me, then business started to tamer off, and I had to say, oh my God, what am I going to do here and what's going to work? I looked at different aspects of the business. So we had money coming in, so all was great. Everything was looking all great, but then what happened was, obviously the members started taming off, and then it was, you need to actually, what are you going to do here? What are you going to sell? What's actually going to be thinking? Are you going to be the next Weight Watchers? Or what's actually causing the problem here in our country? So this went on, I will say it was kind of coming into the second year of my business, and I instantly kept looking at all of the books going, I used the Leo vouchers to develop two systems. It's called a CIT and a WIT, a weigh-in terminal. So the weigh-in terminals cannot be made or bought by anybody in UK or Ireland. So we're really original with that, and we're able to white label it out. So that means that people can make it as their own. So we developed a cash-in system, a members area in this. But I had to look at my books and go, what's happening here? Like, why? First of all, I started looking at, like, why is the country the way it is? And I started looking at things differently. And there was a point actually that I realised I was working in the business so much that I wasn't able to work on the business. I was becoming completely overwhelmed by everything. And I was asking people, can you send me your food or maybe what you're eating? And this wasn't able to happen. So I wasn't able to give them advice correctly. So I decided I wanted to develop my own food tracker. I'm the most stubborn woman that you can meet. It doesn't matter if the idea comes into my head, it's getting done. I don't care how it's getting done, how it's going to market, or how this was even going to happen. So we made our own brief one, again with the help of the Leo. So I used my second trading online voucher for this one. So this is like not very expensive, if you know what I mean. But we had the knowledge. I had somebody, and my friend Zoe, who had the knowledge behind her to able to help me develop this. So which put us into a very unique position. Then I decided I'd go to James Barrett, my mentor in the Leo, had said, no, Caroline, there's something more about you. You have something more. You just need more information in front of you, kind of a thing. And I did New Frontiers then, the Enterprise Ireland New Frontiers programme, and that was the game changer.
The Butcher Man beside me, Butcher Boy was a famous novel, but Butcher Man is beside me here. It was James Nolan, thank you very much. Your business is in Kilcullen, County Kildare. I believe it's been there since the late 19th century, is that correct?
Yeah, my grandfather set up the business back in 1886 on the main street of Kilcullen in County Kildare, and I'm the fourth generation of the Nolan family to run the business. My wife Emma and my son Andrew James helps as well, and we have a fantastic team of staff that run a very unique business down in Kilcullen in County Kildare, Nolans of Kilcullen. No. Unique from the point of view that butchers are rapidly disappearing off our streets in Ireland. And we would be one of the very few left that have the connection back to the farm, where it all starts. We have our own EU-approved abattoir, which is probably the most underestimated part of our business. We have our own EU boning hall, where we bone all our own beef and lamb. EU-approved processing hall, where we make sausages, puddings, steak burgers fresh every day. And that all goes into our shop in Kilcullen.
So how would you describe your business in 2025? You've obviously got this great storied history behind you, but looking back then, but now looking here and now, what state is it in? Is it ticking over, or is it doing better than that, or what do you think?
I think, Emmett, anyone that tells you that it isn't extremely challenging at this moment in time is deluding themselves. You've come off the back of an energy crisis which put huge pressure on everyone's cash flow. You roll forward then to the minimum wage, which has had a ripple effect on the cost of running a business. You throw in a new bank holiday with St. Bridget's Day, that is what the employer has to pay for. Sick pay is another thing that the government has asked the employers to pay for the first 5 days of sick pay. And later in the year, you've got the pension enrolment coming in. The pension enrolment is something I believe is a fantastic idea, and it does cost both the employer and the employee. But if you add all of those up together, whilst business is good, the margin has been...
So what do you do? Do you try and preserve it as best you can? You can't put through price increases because customers will resist that, and we know meat eating is not necessarily, in terms of the numbers. So how do you offset all these things you're talking about?
That is the big challenge. Sadly, our increase in business has come from other butchers closing down. I'm very sorry to say that. I will say the butchers that are left, and a lot of the butchers in the Associated Craft Butchers of Ireland, they're really, really trying hard to present a really good product to customers and move with the times and listen to what customers' demands are. So we're very lucky. The shop has a very loyal customer base, and the team of staff, there's 29 in the business. We have a very highly skilled, very experienced staff that make a huge difference.
David, we're hearing there different challenges being thrown up. Fascinating story, both of them. I suppose the thing is you can only do so much, but if you can find that you're not the only one, I think that's a big part of facing these challenges, is peer learning and networking and all that stuff. How important is it to get those practical supports to people who, A, might not know about them, haven't found it easy to access them, and are their businesses the right size to qualify and all the rest? Talk me through that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, the first thing is, I mean, they're two fantastic stores, and even the adapting. I actually didn't realize you'd get into retail, into packaging. But look at that for something to take on as a thing, and the background of myself and that. There's no mean feat. He said it there, but there's a lot within that. Like Caroline said, working in your business, it's so important to take that time out. And in fairness, we have built a good ecosystem to support small businesses. Small Firms Association ourselves, we have the Mentors Work program, for example, where you can sign up to mentorswork.ie and you will get a free mentor in partnership with SkillNet Ireland over a 12-week program. And again, if you think that allows you to tailor the sports to your business, to your issue. And the guys have talked about their issues, but again, there's nuances within there that are very, very specific to them. So it's about taking that time up. And it's very easy for me to sit here and say that and ring James or Caroline and say, no, you should be taking time out. I have insurance bills to pay, I have X to pay, but it is very, very important. And business leadership is a very lonely place. It's very, very lonely. And that's why we put a lot of focuses on the networking side of things, and certainly through the awards, there is a buzz that develops over, they become like a community, they become friends, they do business together, they become like a community, and half it's just therapy, half it's, speaking to people that are there, having to have a quick conversation. So that's
venting, isn't it? It's
is.
In a good way, yeah.
And there's small little things that, I was going for such and such a grant, well, that's not for manufacturing, that's for here. You hear that all the time. I suppose from what we're trying to do at a general level, we did lobby, and Enterprise Ireland has brought out the National Enterprise Hub. Go back to your question. So if you don't know where to go, that's a great place to start. So that's it, come in, and it goes through all of the different agencies and things are all under one hub. It's just to give you a bit of signposting, because if you're to sit down and start, you could lose a half a day or a day.
Spaghetti Junction, isn't it? Yeah.
Just trying to.
Caroline, you've been talking to me from when you left Weight Watchers, and the amazing journey you've been on since then. You've tapped into a lot of this stuff. Which one did you find the most useful?
Well, I've used the Leo grants and I did priming grants. So I moved from a service-based business to a woman in technology recently. So I've now gone from, so you were talking about like, look, and how did I change? I had to look at developing an app. So the app's called Nutriverse. And so we're currently waiting approval of the PSSF, so that's the Enterprise Ireland's.
Okay.
It's 100k to help us be able to hire staff and be able to invest into technology to bring it and export it abroad. But what we've also did is we started with the trading online, which I mentioned. We moved straight to our green grant because we have an eco score, so it tells people how sustainable the food is. So we got that, and then we got our guaranteed Irish that allowed us to be able to do that. I think that's really recommended for somebody to do.
But how persistent do you have to be? Because obviously you get knockbacks in some of these applications. You have to keep coming back. So how do you do that?
Yeah, like, look, a woman in technology gets a lot of no's. A lot of no's. I found that really difficult. Networking is the key there. Go to the likes of, Tech Found Her, them type of groups, because they do genuinely lead you. I've already got 2 no's off Enterprise Ireland, so this is my final one. I'm not afraid to say that. I got a yes on priming. I think I had the priming grant, and I think that's really good. But there is so much out there as well. Like, there's EU trademark schemes for women. So there is a lot for women, but we don't know how to access it, and that's like, the hub is going to be amazing, but the hub wasn't there for the last 2 years. Also, one thing that's seriously lacking is, just say for example, how many years did it take you to think of, I have to now go and do packaging? That's just adding more work and more things, and what's next and what's next. How many times does people have to keep reinventing themselves?
All the time, it seems.
Yeah, it's all the time. It's never ending, but you still keep doing that on top of your work and on top of your more work.
I suppose looking at the bigger picture, David, is there something that can be done, or is there something from a government policy side that we can look at for these kind of businesses to help them through? Because it's going to be a tough year ahead. I think we're all agreed on that.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's I've mentioned this to you before in terms of there needs to be a short-term solution, and whether we look at something that we've been lobbying for, like a PRSI rebate, or we might have to get a little bit more creative here, more around energy-specific grants. We talked before about cybersecurity, how much of a threat that is. That's just bang, straight up cost. A cost that's essential. It'll be essential for you if you want to stay in the supply chain.
Enterprise Ireland are doing a grant as well.
And there's more coming down the line. I'm afraid to tell you. I hate to tell you, but there's certain changes. So look, where there's this big increased cost, can we do something about it? I'm glad to hear James is saying about his insurance not going up. We're not hearing that across the board.
Flat is the new down,
That's the thing at the moment. And then you look at different sector, a lot with this store my own, and a lot of Cork businesses just can't get.
Or an extra day, like was it Bridges Day you mentioned? Yeah. So again, you don't think that's, you know.
You don't realise, and then we've spoken about.
But you mentioned the storm.
Yeah.
You've closed your business that was a Saturday.
Yeah.
You never get that money back.
No.
You know?
And a couple of days before, and the same across, not just trade. If you were going for a meal, people didn't want to go out, and it was across the board.
And talk to me about your customers, right? Where are they at headspace wise? Are they very cost conscious? Are they prepared to go the extra mile? Do they appreciate the customer service? Are they purely down to the basics? Just talk to me a little bit about where they're at the moment.
We always say health conscious moms aged between 24 to 48, even though our oldest customer is 84. Okay, but this is the market. These are the people who want to go into a supermarket, get the answer in a simple scan. They want to know how sustainable the product is, how processed it is, and how nutritious it is. And it is that simple. That is our customer. And everybody around that era wants to transform their health. We're looking at the health of the society above us. Obesity is causing lots of non-communal diseases, and that is causing a massive cost to this country. No matter what anybody wants to address it or doesn't want to address it, it all comes from the same thing: food, what we eat, how we eat, and how it's processed. And the cost is to us as our health, but to basically us as paying taxpayers as well in the country for the health. And what we're trying to do is completely different, is to be able to give these consumers the answer here and now, and it kind of decreases. It's been proven to decrease the health of the nation of France by 12%. That statistic is from the ARC, which is the Irish Cancer Association, which did a research paper there, and we're going to hopefully, please God, do the same research paper here in Ireland once AI is added to the app.
I think there's a lot of questions coming along. Why would you put yourself through this? And I think probably passion is the right word, because if they don't have the passion as a parent, would you push someone in to go to what all Irish
smaller businesses need a bit of an image makeover? How we present them to the next generation if we want to get people into those businesses?
Well, I mean, like that. Even if James hadn't have gone into the role he went into, I can guarantee if he was a young fella coming into my working role, he'd be, he wouldn't have to be asked twice to do stuff. He'd be there and he would have that work ethic and go. So I think the basics, I mean, you talk about graduate programs and all these sort of things, and people go in and place in their one particular area. Go and work in a small business. Encourage your kids to go and work in a small business. You will get a taste of marketing. You'll get a taste of IT or fixing the printer or whatever that is at the time. So but it is great when it gets right and the passion is there, and it's a lot easier to get out of bed for yourself than somebody else. But you do need the passion. But again, and a lot of the business, I mean, you're given, you've adapted your business.
Yeah, and that's like doing it twice.
Well, exactly. But I mean, just because you go into one particular business doesn't mean that a new energy, a new thought process, a new person, if you look at even my own kids and how they are with technology, the streets ahead of me, I still struggle with WhatsApp, never mind anything else. But look what they're going to come in and look at this business in a fresh frame of mind, and they're going to adapt it and innovate and innovating.
And if you can do it once, if you can do what Caroline and James have done, even if it doesn't go well, you can take that into some other area. I mean, it's not the end of the line. You have the skills, you learn. That resilience will be a skill again.
I do think as a country, we've got an issue with failure, and that needs to stop. It's okay to try and fail, and we do need to get rid of that. Again, that's easy for me to say. It comes with finance and funding, but I think that's a whole other conversation.
One of the biggest supports, I think, which is fantastic, is Enterprise Ireland do a course called New Frontiers, and they pay you €2,500 stipend. There is nobody for the rest of your life going to give you €2,500 every month to see if your idea is going to work. Nowhere. And that, to me, I think is just phenomenal. You don't get it.
Emmett, we spoke about passion. There's one other thing, the cornerstone of our business. It's assumed you will have top quality product. Your staff, your team, they are the cornerstone of our business. We would not have the unique business we have today without the team we have. It's their experience accumulated over years.
And how do you keep that team?
I'm very lucky. They're staying with me.
What stops them saying I'm going down the road to another butcher or whatever?
They're happy with us. And it's a two-way street. I try and look after them as best I can, and they look after me. But the team, the staff that we have, that's what makes shopping in Nolan's of Kilcullen a different experience.
So as you've heard today, some wonderful stories of adaptation. I think that's the message really coming across very strongly from all the small businesses who've spoken to us, and they are up and down the country. We're just giving you a very small sample of what they can do and what they intend to do in the future. You'll see things like the National Small Business Awards that brings them together and showcases what they can do. But as ever, we'd like to say to you, go and support them as best you can. They're a backbone of the Irish economy.